Wow, there is some interesting stuff going on. Okay. First up, there's a few assets I want to talk about. For people who know me, you know that Bitcoin is by far my favorite asset of all time. Okay. I buy Bitcoin, I hold Bitcoin, I do not sell my Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the asset to hold, in my opinion. It's unconfiscatable, it is uncensorable, and that's actually something I want to talk about right now. Twitter, for those of you who are following the markets right now, Twitter and Facebook are getting decimated. To give you some numbers, Twitter's down 38% this year. Facebook is down 15% this year, but it's down 31% this month alone. And one of the things that happened today is Peter Thiel announced that he'll be stepping down from the board, the Facebook board, or Meta board, as they rebranded themselves, to be working on the Trump agenda, to quote Zero Edge here. But anyway, what some other things that we're seeing is the rise of certain SPACs that I'll get to in just a second. Twitter started to tank after Jack Dorsey left. A lot of people know about Kathy Woods' ARK fund, which is heavily invested in Twitter. Her fund has been like cut in half. I forget the timeline, but in a relatively short period of time, our fund has been like cut in half. Twitter's getting decimated, Facebook's getting decimated, and there's a reason for that. Simultaneously, Digital World Acquisition Corp. Digital World Acquisition Corp is a SPAC. It's Trump's SPAC, right? It is up 50% this month, while the rest of the market in general is down. So this company is surging. Today, Rumble, for those of you following the whole Joe Rogan Spotify controversy that's going on, Rumble's SPAC is up 15% today. And I think it was up much, much higher. But Rumble's SPAC is taking off. Rumble offered Joe Rogan $100 million over the course of 4 years, I believe, to ditch Spotify and move over to Rumble. So the market is punishing censorship. Facebook and Twitter are notorious for censorship, and they're getting worse. Jack Dorsey, which I'm neither a fan nor a hater, but when Jack Dorsey left and it became apparent that Twitter was going to be involved in even more censorship than they're already involved in, that was a contributing factor. But there's one more form of censorship that I want to mention. There's a protest going on in Ottawa, the trucker protest, and there was that GoFundMe page where so much money was raised. Well, GoFundMe brought an end to they did not give the money to the truckers. I believe they're going to reimburse those who gave money to the fund. But now we're starting to see people donate money to the truckers via Bitcoin. Bitcoin is uncensorable. Bitcoin is scarce. Bitcoin is money that cannot be confiscated. Bitcoin is, for the first time in human history, we have inalienable property rights. Moral of the story, I am long Bitcoin and I am long Digital World Acquisition Corp. I just bought more of it. I typically most of my money goes to Bitcoin. I will be longing Digital World Acquisition Corp from this point on. I'm not going to get into any other positions, but that is a move that I am definitely going to be making. The market is punishing censorship. It'll be very interesting, especially with the rise of blockchain technologies and certain companies that want to discourage censorship. I know there's a platform, LBRY, that it utilizes blockchain technology to some degree. And anyway, we're going to see the free market is starting to provide all kinds of solutions to censorship. And I take great satisfaction in watching companies like Twitter and Facebook get whacked. And quite frankly, Google and YouTube need to be careful, because Spotify is YouTube competition. And with the technology that's out there now, censorship is going to become more and more difficult. So things to keep in mind. Things to definitely keep in mind. And you know what? While I'm at it, I'm going to read this statement by Peter Thiel, who just left the Facebook board and is now going to be working on the Trump agenda. This was what he said back in 2016. I'll read it verbatim. I don't agree with all the words, but I agree with the sentiment. I don't agree with everything Donald Trump has said and done, and I don't think that millions of other people voting for him do either. It's not a lack of judgment that leads Americans to vote for Trump. We are voting for Trump because we judge the leadership of our country to have failed. This judgment has been hard to accept for some of the country's most fortunate, socially prominent people. It certainly has been hard to accept for Silicon Valley, where many people have learned to keep quiet if they dissent from the coastal bubble. Louder voices have sent a message that they do not intend to tolerate the views of one half of the country. This intolerance has taken on some bizarre forms. The Advocate, a magazine which once praised me as a gay innovator, even published an article saying that as of now I am, and I quote, not a gay man because I don't agree with their politics. The lie in the buzzword of diversity could not be made more clear. If you don't conform, then you don't count as diverse, no matter what your personal background. The leftist movement in the United States right now, the leftist movement in the Western world, is not liberal. Okay? There's nothing liberal about censorship. There's nothing liberal about controlled markets and economic lockdowns. That's not liberal. That is communist. Okay? There's nothing free market. There's nothing free and liberal about the left in the United States or in the Western world right now. Things to keep in mind.